Hey, auteur girls and indie guys.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about some indie comics. That is not the big two.
And our favorite female characters in them.
Yeah.
And we're drinking some jasmine tea. I feel like no discussion of indie comics is complete without talking about these guys. Los Bros Hernandez of Fantagraphics. And this is number one for their third run of Love and Rockets, which started way back in the 80s.
When most people think of comics, they think of Superman and Batman.
Yeah. And these guys wanted to tell their own stories. Obviously, they're Latino guys, and they wanted to tell stories about people that they knew and people that they liked and people that interested them. And the format that they use is really different. It's Gilbert and Jaime, and they don't collaborate. They don't tell the same story. They both write two completely separate things. So they've had these ongoing characters for decades now, and then they have new little stories pop up. It's really like a magazine of stories. It's a really different format from like 18 to 24 pages of superhero fights.
It kind of got to the point where Marvel and DC were making all there was to make. Not exactly, but really...
Well, these are characters and companies that started out as these really small... many of them were much smaller companies that have been coalescing and coalescing and coalescing for so long that now they're these monoliths.
Mm-hmm. And we look at, like, big two characters, and they're sort of like the Commedia dell'arte characters of our time, in the sense that everybody knows something about them or has been exposed to them in some way, but instead of being like Commedia dell'arte where everybody has the opportunity to tell stories with those characters...
They're not public domain.
Nobody has the opportunity to tell stories with those characters. And so indie comics provide a really fantastic way of telling different stories with new characters.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, Image Comics has become a really important publisher for indie comics. It's creator-owned, so they just publish them. This is Sex Crims, which we've probably talked about a lot, and that really came because Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, Matt had worked a lot more with Big Two, but they both started... They emailed and they had this crazy idea, like, we should do a comic called Sex Criminals. And then they were like, wait, what if we did a comic called Sex Criminals? And it's something that you'd never see from big publishers. And the very first story explores Susie, pictured here, and female sexuality. A story about a teenage girl's sexual awakening that is funny and poignant and very real. And that happens through Susie as a character who's, you know, goes to find out what sexual positions are from, like, the girl at school who's gonna know, and they're like 12 or 13.
Well, what I love about Susie's experience is that she has the experience, her first sexual experience is so unique. Since people don't talk about it, you know, you're stuck with, like, what happened to me, is that normal? Is that what happens to everybody? Is it not? I don't know. I don't know if I'm weird or if I'm normal. Nobody will talk to me about it. And, like, what happens to Susie really is very... unique and different.
Spoiler alert, the premise of the entire book is these two people, when they come, they stop time.
The experience she has ends up being the exact same as everybody else because nobody knows if they're having sex normally or not.
And the first time she has sex with another person, she's like, wait, this doesn't happen to everyone.
Right.
And then she finds someone for whom it does happen.
Yeah.
Which is also really similar to, like, finding somebody that you're sexually compatible with. So yeah, another story that you would never see Superman explore. I also just briefly wanted to talk about Princeless. This is such a great series. It's another, like, creator act of love. Because the big two are such these corporate monoliths, they're trying to appeal to their broad, like, 18 to 35 male, like, demographic or whatever. This is a comic that somebody made for his daughter.
It's that same thing that we keep going back to, which is when you make a story that's specifically for one kind of person, it ends up being resonant to vast swaths of other people. I mean, I see myself in this girl so easily, with no problem.
I mean, the message of this book is you can save yourself. It's princeless.
Yeah. What happens if instead of waiting for a prince, she makes friends with her dragon and goes off on her own adventure?
The last one that we have here on paper, this was a kickstarted anthology. It's called Beyond, the Queer Sci-Fi and Fantasy Comics Anthology. This is such a great new space that we're seeing a lot of comics because, again, this is not something you're going to see in mainstream comics, and it's even going to be difficult to get it to Image unless you're a big name already.
I feel like Kickstarter has been so good for new and different comic creators and new and different comic stories.
Mhm.
It's like self-publishing, but you're going directly to your audience and saying, here's this thing,
Yeah.
and then a thing gets to exist when it wouldn't otherwise have been able to.
Mhm.
If you search Kickstarter for the kind of comic you want, you can find
You're
it.
probably going to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we have a message for this video, it's like, if you are scared of Big Two comics, they have such a long legacy, you're like, where do I jump into this?
Yeah, the stories have been being told for
Oh,
years.
I don't know what happened in Action Comics 1 through 50 or 1 through 100. Like, what do I do?
Like, and now it's in the 900s or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. You can check out a website we're gonna link to. There's a whole network of women who work in comic book shops. They're called the Valkyries, and like you could go talk to a human. And if you don't like talking to a human, you could check out Kickstarter, or some of the books that we've recommended. There's stuff for you out there, and it doesn't have to be Batman and Superman and Iron Man.
Are we gonna read Alexa Ply with an Army,
Oh my God,
Indie
let's
Comic
do it.
Women?
Let's do it.
I super want to elect Susie
Yes.
because her struggle to save her library
Oh,
is like, it's so real. And
Susie
I
for
fe-
Library of Congress.
And I feel like with the proper, government backing, we wouldn't have to save libraries with bake sales. So
or bank robberies fueled by stopping time after you orgasm.
yeah.
These girls are getting an army.
They have a one dragon army,
They have a one dragon army. They're getting more. So cute.
and it's adorable.
Yeah. Oh man, who are we gonna read though?
Who are we gonna read?
You know what? I'm gonna say Agent 355
Oh, okay.
from Why the Last Man.
Yeah, Why
which
the
is
Last
a pretty
Man.
great other seminal. I mean,
It's
that
not
was
continuingly published. It's
no,
finished, but
it's finished. It's a great series.
that means that you can start at the beginning and read the whole thing and know
yeah,
you're gonna get to the end, the complete story.
which is another great thing about indie comics.
That they so often
Sometimes
are.
they have an end. Don't read the 10th volume before you read the 9th volume accidentally, like I did on the plane, and then get so mad that you never read the 9th volume because you already know what happens in the end and you're frustrated with yourself.
I think I read some of Fables out of order too, and it's just really frustrating when you
just
do
check the
that.
numbers.
It's hard when you're getting it from the library, and the library only has the title and not the number of the volume, so then you have to like cross-reference with the.
Anyway, Agent 355 she's a modern retelling agent based on the historical Culper Ring.
Yeah, which
The
we
original
talked
American Spies.
about.
We've
in-
totally talked about
yeah.
her. Anyway, I would like to read her unredacted mission reports. Cheers. If you liked our episode, please like our episode. Check us out on Twitter and Tumblr. We're at Angel City Sirens.
And subscribe to our channel because we have a video like this every week on Wednesdays.
Next week, we're very excited because we have a very, very special guest, the first man ever to come on our show.
Sterling Gates, writer of Supergirl in all iterations of Supergirl.
Huge
And we're
Supergirl fan.
So excited. Katie and I will be drinking this tea, but Sterling is drinking coffee.
We're cool with it. We're
Yeah,
cool.
We're trying to be cool with it.
We're cool. I'm cool. Okay. Yeah.
Breaking tradition. I walk into this scene and break the tradition. That's
Immediately.
That's awesome.
So after we've just talked about indie comic women, we're gonna talk about one of the biggest of the big two, Supergirl herself.